Hi, I'm Stellan Hellström with Nordea, and I will lead the Q&A session today. But before we go into that, I will leave the floor to Klas Balkov for a presentation of the Q4 results.
Thank you, Stellan, and let me start with, of course, to welcome you all to not only our presentation, but as we are in the Drottninggatan store, I'm sure you'll find this environment inspiring in terms of all the spring items and summer items we start to put up here on our shelves. We have an extensive agenda to go through today. We're going to cover the fourth quarter. We'll also go through that as it summarized the full fiscal year for us for 14-15. We'll also give you some comments about what have happened after the events of the period, as well as I give you a small future outlook, as well as give you an update on our strategic priorities. And then, as Stellan said, we're going to have a Q&A session. But before we moving into the quarter, just give you a quick snapshot about Clas Ohlson today. I'm not going to go through it all, but I think it's worth mentioning. We're now up at 198 stores in 5 countries. We have a 7.3 billion SEK in turnover on rolling 12. And as previously you have seen, we continue to have a lot of traffic to our stores with a lot of customers visiting and shopping at Clas Ohlson different sales channels. Back then to the agenda and moving into our fourth quarter. If I'll just quickly give you a top line of the fourth quarter, we are reporting another record sales in the quarter, and for the fourth quarter we are close to 1.5 billion SEK in turnover. We are improving our profit. As you know, this is our smallest quarter in the fiscal year, and last year we had minus 18 million SEK. Now we are improving that with 10 million to minus 8. And maybe more importantly, this quarter sums up the full fiscal year to another record sales and also record earnings for Clas Ohlson in our history. Moving then into our key ratios for the fourth quarter. Sales is up 6% in local currencies and 8% in Swedish krona. We have 13 more stores in the network. We have been influenced by somewhat a later spring, but we are still, despite that, reporting our 8th consecutive quarter with positive like-for-like. In the quarter, as you may have seen, it's up 2%. By market, if you're going through the split, it's more or less the same as we've reported the previous quarters, with Sweden now represents 45% of our share of sales, so the international business continued to grow. Finland, worth highlighting, is now at a stable 10% of our total share of sales. And as you may have seen, I'll come back to that, Finland continued to have a very positive development. Still, our largest market is Sweden, and let me now go into each of the market and give you a quick update on, or by market, in terms of our sales development. In Sweden, we are reporting, I would say, a stable growth. We have few new stores in the network. We are growing with 4% in total. I think we have a very strong market position in Sweden. We have seen, which is positive, obviously a somewhat strengthened retail market in Sweden, and so it's positive to see that we continue to grow in line also with the overall market, which is a positive trend as we've seen over the spring. Going then into Norway, we continue with our positive sales development in the Norwegian market. Our sales is up 10% in local currencies. We have added more stores in the market, but we are clearly gaining market shares in Norway. And I would say that we are strengthening our position. And even if we are seeing somewhat negative consumer confidence, the retail market is still fairly okay, and particularly it's clear that the value retailer, including then Clas Ohlson, is gaining market share in the Norwegian market. Finland has started with another quarter in Finland with very positive growth and sales development. As you may know, Finnish market in total is a challenging market at the moment, but we continue to drive and build our position and the concept into Finland. We have a fairly few new stores in this market, and despite that, we are growing with 12% in local currency, obviously indicating a very positive like-for-like development. But it's very pleasing to see that we are strengthening our position in the Finnish market and continue to drive positive development over there. And we're also now looking into how we're going to expand, as we have still potential to grow with more stores in the Finnish market. We announced last week that we are now adding another store in the Helsinki area, and we'll continue to look at further opportunities in Finland. Moving then to outside Nordics, which then includes the UK and our franchise business in the GCC region. We continue to grow, but at this time, as you can see, it's been more support. The growth has been more supported by currency effects. Our sales in local currencies is very much influenced last year on inventory build-up on our franchising business. So from that perspective, we are down in local currencies. But if you look at UK alone, we are flat in our sales development in the UK in the quarter. We have seen, as you know, over a couple of years with very positive growth. It's been somewhat softer now in this quarter, very much related to a later spring or a poor spring, as well as we are also meeting higher comps in the UK market. In Dubai, we have one store, and our partner there continued to search for the next store, as we are looking to have 2 stores in the Dubai area, and it's full focus to search for the second store for Clas Ohlson in that region. Moving then to our gross margin development, leaving the sales. We have, as you know, and may seen, noted a positive gross margin long-term development in Clas Ohlson. Even in this quarter, we continue to see the positive trend. We have strengthened our overall gross margin with 0.3 percentage points to 41.4%. We are seeing a clear negative headwind in our currencies, as we'll come back to that a bit later on in terms of the dollar impact. However, in this quarter, due to time lag in our inventories, hedging, as well as we improved our sourcing efficiency, we have been able to offset the currency impact. At the same time, we continue to see a positive sales mix in the company, which has a positive effect on our overall gross margin. Our share of selling expense has been slightly down versus last year. We are keeping good cost control. However, in this quarter, it's mainly the lower level are due to somewhat lower marketing spend in this quarter versus last year. Over the full fiscal year, this is more of a phasing, as a result of the phasing over the quarters. So from a total perspective, the full fiscal year has no impact, but it was slightly lower in this quarter versus some of the previous quarters, as we have also earlier reported about increased marketing spend in some specific quarters. This sums up a quarter with, again, a 10 million SEK profit improvement to -8 million for the quarter. As you see on this slide, you can really see the effects of this. Is our smallest quarter in Clas Ohlson, and we are improving quarter by quarter. That adds up then the full fiscal year. And let me then move into full fiscal year 14-15. And if I just quickly summarize it from a sales point of view, we've seen a positive development during this fiscal year. We are growing with 8% to 7.3 billion SEK. Again, positive to see that we have continued to drive a positive like-for-like. We have added more stores in the network. We've added 13 stores, which is clearly in line with the target of 10 to 15 stores. And that has given then another 4% on our growth, as well as then you've seen the positive currency effect of +2%. The sales development has led to that we are summarizing record sales for the full fiscal year, but also a record profit for the year with an improvement of 12% to 596 million SEK. We also then are noting an improvement in our operating margin to 8.1 percentage point, as well as our earnings per share is at all-time high level at 7.27 SEK per share. We continue to invest. We are investing in our concept. We are investing in several areas. Our investment is at 192 million SEK, is an increase versus last year. Very much mainly due to more stores in our network. We have, as said, added 13 stores, but we also are refurbishing our store network. We've refurbished 9 stores during this fiscal year. But we're also investing in our systems, and I'll come back to that somewhat later in the presentation. But IT system and the new IT platform is a key ingredient as well for our investment at the moment, and will be so moving along for the coming years. We have also, I would say, a very strong cash flow. We are reporting an operating cash flow of 647 million SEK, which is somewhat down though versus last year, which was then a very also positive level last year. But the reason for where we are down is mainly due to an inventory buildup in the period, particularly now in the springtime. This is very much related to that we bought some of the spring items earlier, but also, of course, we start to see some effects of the dollar influencing the values in our inventories. We do have a high efficiency at our distribution center. We are touching all-time high levels at 7.0 turnover time at our distribution center. And we are improving our net cash position, as we have now improved it with over 150 million SEK versus last year to a net cash holding of 517 million end of the period. Based on this, the board has decided to propose to the annual general meeting a dividend increase of 11% to 5.25 Swedish krona per share, which is then in line with our dividend policy to have a dividend at least 50% of our earnings per share after tax. That was the fiscal year number and key ratios. If I then moving into what have happened during the period after end of April, starting 1st of May. And of course, one of the interesting part is how will the new fiscal year start? And I think it's fair to say that we've had a good start of our new fiscal year 15-16. We are reporting an 8% growth in Swedish krona, 7% in local currencies. I think it's fair to reflect on in May that we are meeting high comparison numbers, as well as there are somewhat negative calendar effect in the month, which is then our estimate to approximately 1 to 2 percentage points. Also worth mentioning we are growing on all markets, have a stable growth, but also fair to say if you look at outside the Nordic countries, it's a lower growth. However, looking at UK alone, last year we had a 20% growth in the UK, so we are clearly meeting high comps in the UK, so we're still keeping up ourselves at a significantly higher level in the UK. Talking then about UK, as earlier announced, we are now looking into the next step of how to move in and how to grow in the UK. We are now announcing today that we are going to open up a new store in the UK. It's a store in a completely new format. It's a smaller store approximately around 300 square meter, which is very much in terms of a more effective store. clearly linked into our ambition to drive the omni-channel structure, omni-channel strategy. So it's a complement to e-com, and it's a store and an effective store that we are now open up in the London area, in St. Albans, where we're planning now to open up this store in end of September. We also continue to review and focusing on our current store network in the UK, as we have announced earlier. We've taken steps as well that we're announcing that we in Manchester store, we are optimizing our store space in that store. We are reducing it with approximately 25%. It was earlier a store with 3 floors. Now we're moving into 2 floors, which will give a better store configuration, will be a better consumer, better for us to meet the consumers in that store, as well as, of course, it will provide us with a more effective store to operate. We're also announcing that we are closing our Birmingham store, the store in Mary Hill, outside Birmingham, as of August 2015. We are using a break option in that contract. We have looked at the Birmingham store and seeing there is opportunity for us to go further on and to invest in other areas. Looking at just this store, it will have a non-recurring cost of approximately 10 million SEK that will affect the first quarter. However, over the full fiscal year, it will balance out. Today, we're also announcing, I think, exciting news in terms of our next step or our international expansion into Germany. We have now contracted 3 stores in the German market that are strategically placed in one city in Hamburg. And we plan to start and open up the stores a year from now. But I will come back a little bit more in terms of the German plans as we go through our strategic initiatives later on in the presentation. But before that strategic update, let me just give you some comments about the future outlook. And I think starting and looking at the overall macro situation, there are things around us that is moving fast, and that it obviously has an impact also on the consumers and on Clas Ohlson. Some of them is currencies, the other is changing in the oil price, which obviously affects some of the product costs, etc. And it's also interest rates that is on a all-time low levels. All these areas influencing us in various ways. But let me just focus on our main challenge, which is obviously the fast changes on the currencies. As you are aware, there's been a drastic change in the dollar. At the same time, as you see on this slide, we are also still, as dollar is one area for us, one currency, but also the Norwegian krona is another. And we are seeing the Norwegian krona still at the somewhat historical low levels, pending between 105 to 110 on the SEK. This has an impact, obviously, when it goes this fast. So how do we handle this? Well, there are 3 clear areas. We are focusing on our price development, and we are monitoring this very closely. We are looking at our sales mix. And also importantly, we are looking as well in terms of how we can increase our efficiencies on the back end. Let me quickly go through one of them. Firstly, in terms of price position, the majority of our competitors obviously source a lot of products that is dollar related. So we are clearly have a clear expectations that over time we will see some of this cost increase being reflected in the consumer pricing. To date, we have seen some movement and where we've been able to follow. However, there are still more is needed, and we are following this very closely in terms of how we can balance this out over time. And it's clear as well that we will never compromise on our price position, but obviously you start to see some of the international brands who is taking quick actions in terms of setting a new price point in the market. And there, of course, there is an opportunity for us as well to follow. Secondly, the sales mix is an important area where we clearly can influence it in terms of how we are driving our sales mix in the market. We have various of products in terms of high ticket items or low ticket items, various margins where we also have differences in our categories where we're driving this strategically. in terms of how we want to meet the consumers, but also, of course, how we can optimize our margin development. Private label is an area that we've seen a very positive development for us, and will continue to drive that agenda moving forward. That will give great value for the consumers. At the same time, it also is positive for our margin development. And then finally, sourcing efficiency. We are clearly working on how we're going to balance this in terms of how we can attack this issue on our back end. You've seen that in the fourth quarter, where we have had positive effects from the reducing our cost in terms of transports. We introduced a new transport agreement as of July last year, so we've seen a positive effect out of that in the fourth quarter. We'll see some positive effect as well in the first quarter on this deal. Then we are back to the same comp as we had last year, obviously. We continue to drive the direct sourcing agenda. Of course, it's important for us in terms of to cut out cost in the system. Another area that is key for us is to work more intensively with our key suppliers. We are growing, we are getting more and more volume, and of course, the better we can be together with the suppliers to take out cost out of the system. Could be everything from improving our forecasting to improving the packaging or whatever that will be, to reduce cost is supporting this topic. As well as we have invested a lot, as you know, in our distribution center up in Insjön, and we're still working on. You saw some effects out of that in the fourth quarter. We still see an opportunity to become even more efficient in that. There are still opportunities for us to grow behind the same investments that we've done at the distribution center. But to be clear, there are no doubt, the dollar situation still is our main challenge for us going forward in the short term. Over time, we are confident this will sort out. But short term, of course, we need to manage this. And obviously, the impact will be dependent on currency development, and mostly importantly, also how the market is developing. But as we have now presented, I hope that we are doing what we can to reduce the short-term dollar impact. That was a bit of the future outlook. In terms of number of stores that we have announced last quarter is still the same, 10 to 15 stores. Moving then into our strategic priorities, and give you a few comments, not on all of them, but a few comments that we are putting extra focus on. One of them is, of course, to continue to develop our product range. That is core for Clas Ohlson, to meet the consumers with inspiring products that solve many of the practical problems they have in day-to-day life. We have a base of practical smart products that we are now putting extra focus in terms of adding on that base, the seasonal products that is inspiring based on the various seasons. We are really working on our private labels in terms of improving the quality, improving the design, and improving the value for the consumers. We continue to really see that the consumer are appreciating the efforts we are doing. As you may have seen, we have announced several of our own labels that is getting fantastic recognitions, both in terms of test results as well as our sales. But we also have a high focus on taking the steps in terms of supporting and helping the consumers to live a sustainable lifestyle, to have a sustainable lifestyle, which means that we are really increasing the pace in terms of developing and giving them products that is supporting on that agenda. And that also then, of course, includes the opportunities we have with our spare parts. As presented, we have over 10,000 spare parts in our range, and of course this gives a fantastic opportunity to repair a product rather than buying a new one, and we have seen a fantastic growth in this area for us. So developing our products is key. Obviously, another very important topic is to take care of our customers. We are obviously very pleased in terms of to see all the recognition we've been given in Clas Ohlson from the consumers, and we have a very strong loyalty. As you may have seen, I think we are one of the fastest growing loyalty program in Club Clas with over 1.7 million members. But we are also now still seeing a positive growth in our Clas Office program that is going towards the business-to-business customers. And of course, focus now is to continue to drive and add value to the customers in these various programs. So products and taking care of the customers, but also we put a lot of energy and focus on improving the loyalty in terms of supporting and helping the consumers to shop at us. And we are clear about that our omni-channel strategy is a key strategy for us, where you should be able to shop 24/7 in Clas Ohlson with a seamless shopping experience. And the latest development that we're now taking steps on is, as I commented on the UK in terms of the stores, where we are now adding a complete new store format, a smaller format, which is more compact, but it's going to really clearly be an add-on value to support to the e-com. And we are very excited to see how that's going to be received in the UK market coming fall. But to do that, and I think to provide a true omni-channel experience, you need clearly good system supports. And I think the time is most likely perfect in terms of how, as we are now investing and taking the steps to implement a new modern business system into Clas Ohlson. This is a large project for us, where we are changing the backbone system and changing the support system that I think will not only provide an opportunity for us to give the consumers a better experience, but also obviously also give us an opportunity to improve our efficiencies and to plan our business in an even better way. And also it will give us a clearly stable, scalable platform for future international growth. We are 2 years into the program. We plan to, this first step, to continue to work on this for the coming 3 years. And as announced earlier, we are working on the Microsoft AX platform. Let me now end the presentation in terms of what we're now doing as a next step for our international expansion. First of all, I think just to give a quick recap in terms of why we are looking into Germany. We are seeing a large market, a clear gap for Clas Ohlson. And I must say, the more we learn, we've worked a lot now with German over the years. The more we learn about it, the more confident and excited are we in terms of looking at our opportunities to meet consumer needs in the German market with the Clas Ohlson offering. We have had very clear criteria when we said when we're going to open up the next market for us. We are looking at one city clustering. Initially, the northern German focus has been. We want to go with an omni-channel approach, and we're going to take one city first, and then after that, we're going to evaluate and then decide on further expansion, but really make one impact in one city as a start. And I must say, with this in mind, I'm very pleased to announce today the 3 contracts that we have signed with our first stores in Hamburg. We have been able to get, and I think we've worked on this for some time because it was important for us to get one impact and to get particularly the store strategically placed. And I think we've been successful in this, where we're now looking at the start of the stores to be rolled out a year from now, and then fairly quickly the coming months. By store, Jungfernstieg, our flagship store will be located on Jungfernstieg, which is the heart of Hamburg, one of the more popular city streets, I would say, where if you are familiar with Hamburg, you'll also know that Apple has their flagship store on the Jungfernstieg, so we are on the same street. Altona, one of the, I would say, fast-growing, very popular city areas slightly outside Hamburg. You may have followed IKEA, who's opened up their first city concept in Altona. We will not be next to IKEA, but we'll be in the same area. So, of course, it's also a very interesting area to launch in. And then finally, Alstertal, which is Hamburg's largest shopping mall. I even think it's Germany's second largest shopping mall that we are also, which is northern part of Hamburg with a fantastic consumer base for us. So I think clearly we have now created our, I would say, the optimal conditions for us to come in and have a successful introduction into an entrance into the German market. So I have to say, I think we are at least looking at some exciting times ahead, but as of now, we have now reported the fourth quarter. That sums up an all-time high sales and earnings for Clas Ohlson. We have a strong financial position. We have a long-term focus. We are clear about our next step. And I think as announced today, and also we have some further initiatives is about to come. I think we have some strong plans as well for the future. I think, Stellan, that concludes the presentation part. So leave it over to you to run the Q&A.
Sure, I will start off with a few questions and then I will let the floor in for more questions. First, then on the gross margin, can you give some detail maybe on how the different factors affected you in this quarter? Obviously, you had some significant US dollar headwind, but how much of the positive effect comes from price mix and logistics savings, respectively?
No, as we are actually reporting a positive gross margin, we've been able to even overcompensate for the negative currency effect, obviously, in this quarter. But again, we have come to some point into our inventories with the time lag and the hedging, but the majority is to come, so we are still some time to do. But we've taken some steps, and you've seen that. And I think in terms of levels, I mean, we've taken apart. We've had some currency effects impacted this quarter, but there are more to come.
And the magnitude of the savings?
I know you would ask me that, but no, but I think we are not. I mean, we've taken some steps, but we're not looking into the exact magnitude of it.
All right. Then with regards to price elasticity, what do you expect now and what do you see so far in terms of how consumers are responding to higher prices in the market?
No, I think we have seen some movement in the market, and I think we've been able to follow. But I also think it's fair to say, if you look at the price position that we have, there are products that is not as price sensitive, and they are not as well. There are not so high levels of increase either. I must say that. So far, I think it's been okay in the marketplace. But we're obviously tracking and controlling this very frequently.
And when it comes to price movements, you mentioned that you've seen some in the market so far. Are there any differences between the different markets that you operate in?
Well, obviously, there are some. If you look at Sweden and Norway, that is, in our cases, are also biggest market with the biggest impact. There is the bigger movement in these markets. UK is not as influenced due to the pound strengthening at itself.
Okay, and your work to increase your private label sales. Where are you now in terms of share of sales, and what is your aim?
Well, we've taken some action. If you would follow us closely, you would also see that we said we are above 25, and I said that between 25 and 30, we are starting to get to the upper level in this bracket. But if you also look at it, we are also taking some strategic steps in our private labels. We actually taking away some of them, taking away some range. So we are, with that, also adding new ranges. We are investing in our own, you call it tools, in terms of developing our own products, so we get our own unique models. So I would say there is a high agenda in terms of increasing design, but also quality. We are adding even further guarantees on our products. As you may know, we've had a 5 and in some areas also 10 years guarantees on our tools. We'll continue to drive that, and we'll continue to increase, and are very confident on driving clearly quality at great value with good design in Clas Ohlson. So to answer your question, we are increasing the share. We are not above 30. We are still in that between 25 and 30, but we continue to see it grow. And I think that what we'll start to see is also over time some bigger jumps in this when we are getting all the products in place that we have in our pipeline.
Do you have any target?
We have some internal targets, and I've said all the time that I think in terms of for Clas Ohlson it's important to have the mix between these products. You should, as a consumer, come to Clas Ohlson and you should be able to select between a known brand and a private label or a no brand in that perspective. So it's going to be the consumer who chooses and who make the selection in terms of how big this share will be, because of course that is results back to us if we are good enough in terms of developing our own labels. But I think, as I said, the mix is going to be important for us. We're never going to drive it fully, but I think there are opportunities to go above this 25 to 30. I think there is probably potential to see that happen over the coming years.
And other factors influencing then your gross margins going forward. I mean, how the freight rates, for example, are going down. How big impact will that have going forward?
Well, freight rates are going down. On the other hand, they're also pegged to dollar, so there's kind of an effect on the negative side there as well. As I think, well, we shared that last year. We implemented the new freight agreement as of July, so we are starting year round on that. I think there are still areas where we can be even more efficient in this area. But I think also as I shared, working on the back end is important for us, and also there are still areas where we can do even further in terms of getting even closer to our suppliers to drive out cost out of the system. And I think we are continuously working on this and continue to see opportunities even in that area. But of course, there are big changes now with the dollar coming up. So.
Okay, then just a question also on the cost base here. We know there is an increased social tax coming in Sweden in this fall for younger employees. How do you see that affecting you going forward?
No, I think it's in terms of we'll see how when and how the full effect's going to be, and it may change. But of course, it's not positive for us. I think we are in there, I'm looking at Göran, it's around 10 million SEK over the year, which is a decision that has been taken now. But of course, that depends as well on how we are handling the staffing and how that could develop. But it's in this magnitude for the step that has been taken now.
Sure. Also, I had a question on your German entry here. How should we think about this rollout in Germany? Now, previously, I think you said 1 to 2 stores in Germany, and now we're seeing 3 contracts being signed here. Does that mean that you are expanding your initial steps in Germany, that you will maybe even continue to roll out more stores, or will you stop at 3 and evaluate those before you continue?
No, I hope that I was fairly clear on that. I think when we looked at it, we were just announcing, because we don't want to disclose to competition what we are doing and also to landlords in that aspect. So we are looking at a few stores initially. Now we are extremely pleased of getting a strategically placed as presented in terms of to covering Hamburg in one go. But we're also very clear. This is the stores we're going to launch with. I think it gives us a broad coverage of Hamburg, and we're going to make an impact in Hamburg and see the effects of that in the market. And after that, we decide on further expansion. It will not happen unless we see the positive effect that we expect.
And in terms of pricing in the German market, where do you expect yourselves to be?
I think we
compared to other markets?
Well, we are in. Our view is that our price position and the margins that we get are very competitive. So we are confident about going into Germany.
Okay, I will open up then for some questions from the floor.
Hi, Martin Arnell with DNB Markets. I just want to follow up a bit on the gross margin dynamics there. And did I understand you correctly that you have raised prices a little bit and this has helped offset the negative effects, or is that something yet to be seen a bit further ahead? Or?
I think what we have seen during the last couple of months is that the market has reflected some in terms of pricing. We've been able to follow in that. That obviously have happened over the coming months, or the last few months. So of course you've not seen that fully impact in the quarter. On the other hand, it's also it's not that it's fully compensating the dollar impact, but you start to see some movement, yes, in the recent months.
So it's not one of the main factors offsetting yet?
No.
No, okay. And also, could you give some flavor on Finland that we've seen growing quite well in the quarter? What's changed there from your perspective?
No, I think that it's been a long journey with in terms of clear strategy, in terms of implementing the Clas Ohlson concept of a smart product at great value. As we have said all the time, to come in with the Clas Ohlson concept in the new market, it's not like a new fashion retail, it's not like anything someone has seen before, so it takes some time. And I think we're gradually seeing that step, and I think particularly the last couple of years, I think it's been also we've been able to present the concept with also the new concept that we have in a better way in terms of how we communicate and how we work with the offering has been positive, and it's been well received by the Finns.
And just a final question on inventories. You mentioned that you have bought spring items earlier and that has explains the effect on working capital. Could you go into
I mean, I think it was a mix between you started to see obviously the dollar is impacting as well on the inventory. So that is one factor, as well as we this year wanted to make sure that we have all the spring items early enough, particularly based on normally the UK spring starts a bit earlier. This year you may question that compared to last year. So we wanted to make sure that we had strong service levels early into the spring this year. So we bought it somewhat earlier than last year, which has had an impact. But obviously the dollar impact is there as well.
Okay, thanks.
All right. I'll come back a little bit to your store network then. Now you're opening a rather small store in the UK with sort of an omni-channel approach, I assuming here with a very limited Clas Ohlson assortment on display and more ability to order online. I'm assuming is the thinking here. You didn't choose this strategy for Germany, and that's one question. And also another one, is this something for the Nordic market as well?
I think it's a very relevant question. I think if you look at it, what has been important for us is to have this. We have 4 stores in the London area today, so we've provided the consumers with what we have to offer. So this, of course, is a very positive complement to the larger stores as well as to the omni-channel structure. We think it's important when we're moving into a new market to provide us with what we have to offer in the full scale. But obviously, we are very excited about the new format. I think we worked on it for some time, even physically. If you look at that format, it's amazing in terms of how we can present the core of the concept in an effective way. So of course, we are now seeing the first step is going to be in the UK, but we are not saying that we're not going to be able to launch this as well in our mature market as a complement and where it fits strategically into complementing existing stores or being in a city where we are having space limitations, etc. So I think it's a first step. I think it's also, if you look at the overall trend in the market, where the UK particularly then has are further down the road in terms of looking at an omni-channel strategy, where e-com is a large part of, particularly in the London area. So we are adapting our offer compared to where we are located.
And Germany, this was not an option, or?
No, as I said, Germany, it's important to come in as a start with the full offering, with the full-size stores. We are looking into, the Jungfernstieg is going to be a large store, kind of a flagship store, so the majority of the Hamburger citizens will be able to see the full-fledged range. We're also adding the 2 more stores. And then obviously after that, you can look into complementing. But as of a start, we think it's important to go in with a full size.
Okay, and you don't. I guess when you entered UK, I think one of the key differentiators that you mentioned back then, relative to for example Argos, was that you had all the arrangement on display here. You don't fear that you are becoming a little bit more similar to your competitors now?
No, I don't think so. But I think we are not an Argos. An Argos is I think we're also looking into 7 years down the road that your market is also developing, and also in the UK. I think this is an opportunity for us. We still have our base stores in place in the area, and this is something we can add on.
Okay. With regards to your ongoing evaluation then of the UK network, are you planning any further measures? Should we expect maybe even more stores to close going forward?
No, I think as in all stores that we have, we are reviewing, but particularly in the UK, we are taking the next step of taking this strategy moving forward of having an omni-channel structure. With that said, we are not saying we are looking at the store network in general, so we are not saying we're not going to close down, even if there are no plans today, but we are not saying that will not happen. Obviously, we are reviewing it, seeing the opportunities we have, seeing how it fits, obviously seeing how the stores is performing and so forth. So we do that in all markets, but also, of course, we do it particularly in the UK at the moment.
But these steps taken now, then they are sort of
as of today,
major impact of this review, or
it's an ongoing journey.
It's an ongoing journey. Okay. Then on the Gulf region here, I guess you previously said that you expect the potential, or you see a potential for 20 stores in the next 5-year period, and you didn't write that out in this report. Is that because you see differences?
I realized that, and I think we got the comment on that as well this morning. I think you should read it in a way of when we launched the GCC, we wanted to give and highlighted what kind of opportunities do we see, but we were very clear on that we're going to open up a couple of stores first, evaluate, and then take the next step. So we are still in that evaluation phase. I think it's clear that we would have liked to see 2 stores today. We are not. We only have 1, but we have this is not where we are in fully control ourselves. We have a partner. They are really searching for the next store. They haven't been able to find that yet. So the next step is now to get the second store. We'll continue in that evaluation phase. After that, the potential is still the same, but of course we need to do the evaluation phase first.
Okay. And then your store network then in your core Nordic markets, how do you see that going forward? Are you still seeing the potential as rather saturated in the Sweden and Norway, and still some way to go in Finland, or is that the continuous view?
No, I think it's the same message as we've given. We are in our maturest market, Sweden and Norway, we are at a certain level. Still, having said that, there are still white spaces, as we call it, for a Clas Ohlson store. You've seen that in Sweden. We have announced a few store openings. We are actually open up a store next week in Värmdö. We have signed a new store out north of Stockholm. So there are still white spaces, but of course we are at the mature level in Sweden and Norway in terms of percentage of new stores to come.
Okay, then I think we have one question from the telephone conference.
I remind you that it is 01 on your telephone keypad to ask a question.
No.
There are no questions on the phone. Therefore, again, as a reminder, it is 01 on your telephone keypad to ask a question.
Okay, I guess we continue. I also had one question on your the tax payment here that you had in Norway. If you can give us an update here, and also if you expect a different taxation of profits to lead to a higher average tax rate going forward.
But I think now we have Göran here, and I think it's. I'll hand it over to you so you give it correctly.
Okay, just an update regarding the Norwegian tax, that we still have the opinion that this will not increase our tax payments. I mean, we think that there will be a mutual agreement between the Swedish and Norwegian tax authorities. So our tax cost, as we disclosed last quarter, will not increase. And for the future to come, I think we are at the right level right now, but there are no guarantees.
Okay. I was just thinking that the tax rate, obviously, the corporate tax rate is higher in Norway, but you don't expect this to have any major impact?
No, not at the moment.
Very good. Yeah, I also had one final question maybe on the Clas office now that you've been up running for a number of quarters. If you can give some flavor on what's happening there.
I think we launched it. We had the first step to convert because we have a lot of what we call business-to-business customer who is shopping at Clas Ohlson but shopping for their business. So we have converted a lot of these existing customers. We are now in the spring started to do some recruiting campaigns, and we are gradually seeing the number of members in the Clas office program is increasing. So we start to see that increase. I think we are still in the phase of increasing members, and when we have built up the large amount, of course, we can be better at in terms of tailoring the offering and so forth, and we still have that to come. So it's still a minor part of our business as expected and as shared, but I think it's something that we see as a great opportunity for the future in terms of how we can start to build up gradually a different segment versus a consumer segment. And we have started small scale, going in the right direction, and more to come. And we also have more to do in terms of providing the relevant offers to these customers.
Okay, I think my questions are finished here, and so if there's no other questions from the floor, thank you very much.
Thank you, and let me also close with thank you, Stellan, as well as thank you all for coming and listening. And of course, as always, I think we have the cashier open if someone wants to shop in our store. Of course, you're always welcome. Thank you.